Welcome to the match replay of the big round 15 clash between the Sydney Swans and the Brisbane Lions. The Swans in pretty devastating form, coming off consecutive wins at home against Geelong and GWS. Young Tony Armstrong named as their sub to take on the Brisbane Lions, and the Swans have had a good record over the Lions. A couple of key injuries to the Lions. McGrath, one of the more experienced players, out of the side, along with young Pollock. Green, who's been very effective as a sub, once again will take the green vest heading into the game. So it's Sydney and Brisbane. Let's go to the opening bats. Well, some late drama here at the SCG. Simon Black is out of the Brisbane team. Lee Colbert, you were just alluded to this before. Do we have any more information?
No, other than he's a very late withdrawal. The team sheet's gone in and very, very late. John Longmire, interestingly, ran straight to Craig Bird once he found out. He's certainly set for Simon Black, and now he's got a free night. Doesn't have to chase around Simon Black, which is good news.
Yes, so the team sheets came out and he was still on that. And Beams, as we heard the boys mentioned before, played half a game in the reserves. So it's the Ducks and Drakes, but it sounds like this was just a late injury, that obviously something, some sort of spasm or some sort of late problem, Paul Roos, that made the change.
Well, clearly, because you're not going to play someone in the second, so obviously they put the team sheets in. So it's one of the tough ones, because often you keep your emergency out, but the problem is if it's the same emergency every week, Al, and he doesn't play, they're deconditioned. So I'm not sure. That's a reasonably big blue, perhaps, for the Lions, not keeping one out. So it does sound like the Blackie was fine and maybe did something in the warm-up.
Absolutely, because at the right-hand end of the SCG, he was doing some sprint testing just before we went to air, and it appears that he just couldn't quite get off the mark. So that is obviously why he's been ruled out. Ryan Harwood is a very good young player, and young Tasmanian's come in just recently and played a fantastic game. Probably his best of his short AFL career last week.
I think for Beams, though, too, Hutto, is that obviously they'd be hoping there's not an injury early in the game, because I suppose one of the advantages of being a sub, having already played, if they don't have any injuries, he's probably only going to be able to play 30 or 40 minutes, so it's not a major concern. But if they get an injury early and he's got to play a full game, that's tough on the young fella.
We're set to go. Big Mumford taking the first ruck tonight. In past weeks, Pike's been given that role at times. Mumford just about back to full fitness, obviously. Harwood comes crashing through, and we're into it.
And I think significant too, you mentioned Mumford, good starting in the middle too, Hutto. So they're two good players that have been out for a bit this year, are in the middle of the ground to start off.
That's just probably get Adam Goods in and around the ball. He hasn't been in great touch over the first 2 weeks back since returning, but get him in there and get a bit of body contact very early, which he's done.
Interesting, if Bird was the one going to Black, he looks like he's now got Rich,
who can be extremely damaging on that left peg if he gets it in around the middle of the ground here at the SCG.
Yep. And as we suspected, Rains has locked arms with Kieran Jack on the outside of that pack.
Yeah.
He's played some really good run-with roles this year, has Andrew Rains, and so that'll be an interesting matchup just to see whether Jack can get any space. He's going to need assistance from his fellow midfielders to put blocks on Rains.
Starts with a high tackle.
That's my only criticism of Rains. Rains has been solid this year, but he gives away too many silly free kicks, and that's just a free ball that Kieran gets at the start of the game to get his confidence going.
And delivers for a really charging, confident-looking Reid, but couldn't take the mark. McKeever, there's a little mistake from Polkinghorne. Reid and Goods sandwich him and try and crush him. The umpire let it roll for a while. And now we're going to have a ball up. Yes, Rains has played on Maloney, Griffin, Mitchell, Kerr and Brent Harvey in the last 5 matches, so not a bad quality of opponent.
A big jump from Reid, just crashed into the back of the Brisbane Lions player.
Hudson worked it out to Hanley, and now Harwood slammed it back to the wing. Merritt, Polkinghorne just left it behind. A little bit greasy. It's been pretty wet here. Even this morning there was quite a bit of rain in Sydney. And he's holding the ball. You're the local. There's been a bit of weather, hasn't there?
Yeah, it was raining this morning, certainly out here. The ground holds pretty well. This is a great ground when it does rain. So the conditions, providing it doesn't rain again, should be pretty good.
Richards gets it in. And free kick going Sydney's way. And Josh Drummond not happy about it.
Well, now holding free kick to LRT on that occasion. You don't want to be giving those away. You said about Rains' free kick, and just see how Josh Drummond's just got the arm wrapped around LRT. He was never going to actually be in the contest, so yeah, bad mistake early.
Fresh from 2 goals won last week, 14 disposals. Kicked 8-4 for the season as a bit of a spare parts player, bit of ruck, bit of forward, bit of everything. And the kick's on its way. You can see it's just drifted a fraction to the left.
I never understand how wide players do that. I mean, LRT wasn't even going for that mark, and it's just a ball that he gets. Here it is. Here, he's not even going to launch himself with that ball, Lewis. And it's just a ridiculous free kick from Drummond.
It's just a sign of the pressure on defenders. When spoke about pressure.
Speaking of which,
gave it straight up to Kennedy, but Kennedy
smothered by Jack.
Opportunity missed. High ball, Melcheski. And Rich was very grateful for the arrival of Patful because he was going to be outsized. And outnumbered old Redden left it behind, and he's been pinged out. It's interesting. Watch the replay here, how this ball comes out, because often I say that this just fell out in the tackle, but the umpire deciding no.
Well, that might even be a little square up. I reckon Daniel Rich almost gave away the free kick. Here's the tackle on Jeddah. It's been knocked out in the tackle, I would have thought.
I think maybe because he took on the first tackle.
And then the second arrived. So
you certainly lose credits the more people you take on.
Yeah.
Glenn normally is such a sharpshooter.
Well, the ball,
everything.
The ball must be flat because Daniel Rich
kicked one along the ground.
Near missed his boot.
Look, here's
the tackle again. Yeah. Pretty much gets around the first tackle.
Yeah, you can't do that. I think just because he took the first one on, Ellie. You know.
So that makes it right.
Yeah.
Howard driving kick for Hudson. Well placed to mark. Couldn't complete the job. Hanbury getting busy a couple of occasions. They're going to work it around the lines here. No, deciding to take them on Melcheski. Oh, got one high, or he's gone. Otherwise, he's gone.
Yeah, I would have thought that's a free kick.
Yeah, would have thought he took on the extra one there. Big Daniel Merritt, like a brick wall he was. And the problem is he slept at the end. He slipped, so...
If you're trying to give Daniel Merritt a don't argue, Merritt's about 110 kilos.
Absolutely, he's a monster of a man.
Melcheski, the late inclusion for Marty Matner, who wouldn't have missed too many in your time here, Rosie.
No, he hasn't actually, so just a bit of groin soreness, apparently John Longmire mentioned before. And they thought he was going to play after training, he said.
Well, the game being exclusively played in the forward half of Sydney at the moment hasn't amounted to much.
It hasn't been over the halfway line for the Brisbane Lions yet. They should be able to get there. But the problem is the long kick will go straight to the Sydney Swans players.
Yeah, Teddy Richards, is it sitting back there?
It's a specialty of theirs, of course, with Richards and Grundy. And they're both there. There's a bit of jumper tugging going on. Shaw goes for territory with a wobbly old kick. And couldn't handle it, Patful, so Hanbury's grateful for that. He spots Goods on the inside. He'll come over the top in true Adam Good style. Moment of hesitation, and that moment may have just cost him in the end because good pressure from Adcock.
Looks like at either end of the ground, Josh Drummond and Ted Richards are going to be the loose men in defence. Just from an outside point of view, I just see it's a massive risk to leave Richards or Grundy free.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. And they're very different type of players. Drummond's going to be more that spot kick running type defender. But the problem now for Brown is Richards is a really courageous player and reads the ball really well. So there's going to be a lot of 2-on-1s for Jonathan Brown today if that continues.
Yes, 95% of the game so far been played in Sydney's forward half. But it might be Brisbane with the first opportunity to goal here because Brown's guiding it to Karnisis. He was one of the inclusions this week. And he'll line up for goal. Kicked 4-7 for the season in just 4 games.
Well, the biggest win out of that play for the Brisbane Lions was the fact that Daniel Merritt took a really strong contested mark. He worked hard to get back to the 50-metre arc, but that is a big confidence builder for not only him, but the midfield of the Lions to be able to have the confidence to go long to him.
So Patrick Karnisis, reasonably elementary kick for a forward, and he goes back and slots it, and Brisbane kick the first of the afternoon.
You know, I think for it to work with Grundy and Richards, you're going to have to see Merritt and Brown Lynchy play as sort of a dual centre forward to keep them either side of the ground. And if Merritt does what he did then and keeps Richards engaged in a marking contest, then that allows Grundy and Brown. You see it here. You can see it here, and that was Richards versus, and then all of a sudden Brown gets free because Richards is not engaged with Merritt.
So good efficient use for Brisbane.
I'm a little surprised actually Patrick Karnisis hasn't played more football this season. I mean, he's very impressive start to his AFL career last year, but just hasn't really seemed to have kicked on.
Pike brought it to ground. Rockcliffe was involved in Buick, and Rains on the outside. Stiller back in the team for his 100th today. Buick now closing in, the Swans swarming through. Rains did well, did as good as he could hope for, and Stiller draws a free kick.
There's high contact on Stiller, just got a bit of a shoulder to the chin.
It looked like one of the Lions players just plumb dropped that ball over there before. I don't know whether it was still slodging the tackle, but that seems to be the way the umpires are umpiring. As long as the ball comes out, they don't seem too worried about that illegal disposal at the moment.
Drummond guided it to Rich. He works it back. They seem to be fairly locked at the moment. Adcock can go short, but that's about all there was for him on the menu.
They do this pretty well with Brisbane Lions over the last month. This sort of umbrella defensive switch where they're happy to go back to centre half forward, but they know they've got a good spread on the far side.
That was a terrific kick, and the result of it got all the way through to Leicester, and now they're moving again. High ball up inside 50 from Buick. Oh, Richards really went for it.
Well, one win for the Lions is that they have got one-on-ones at the moment with Richards and Grundy, but this is what Ted Richards is so good at. I mean, normally he gets the ball and smashes it over the line. Didn't on that occasion, but at least he was there in the contest.
And that's great pressure on Pike. Crisp comes in to merit the next give. Rains, the instant kick, the standoff in the goal square, swiped away Grundy. Just in time was Shaw. Again slapping it, and Smith will take it away after Hanbury's handiwork. And they've got it into LRT's hands. Roberts Thompson at half-back over for O'Keefe. He can give to Everett if he wants to keep going with the motion. He decides not to. So the bases are now covered. It's been a good start for Brisbane, despite Sydney getting a lot of the early footy.
Yeah, I think the thing for Brisbane at the moment, just their two real impact players in Jeddah and Kieran Jack have only touched the ball once between them. So they're certainly looking to keep those players out of the game.
Brisbane's structures, much used word, seem to be functioning pretty well. Pike brings it to ground. Kennedy and Rockcliffe look like they might be going head-to-head. That'll be some battle. Here's Jeddah for some impact. It was only minor, but it could amount to a fair bit here. Malcheski delivered superbly to Reid, who's looking lively. McVeigh is deep in the goal square. It's guided for Everett instead. Similar position at the other end of the ground to where he kicked that goal against Geelong.
That was a nice kick from Reid. Just carried the kick far enough to allow Everett just to hold his direct opponent out and take quite an easy mark in the end, but it was all about the kick. Had to be weighted correctly, and certainly was.
Kicked 2 goals last week, Reid. 15 disposals. It looks like he's gradually got his confidence back as the season's gone on, but we're watching Andreas Everett at the moment, and he's playing his 10th game for the season, and he didn't do that late in the game against Geelong.
I mean, these are the chances I talked about before the game. This is a worrying sign already for John Longmire. There are 3 shots a goal, 3 easy shots a goal, resulting in 2 behinds and 1 out of bounds on the full. But you're right, Hunter. I think the big thing with Reid is having Mumford down there. Pike has been in the ruck and Mumford's been down there. Goods back the last couple of weeks. There's no doubt, as a young key forward, Al, it's really hard to hold that down week in, week out without too much support. Yeah. So they do have a couple of big key forwards back. Yeah, occasionally using Mumford down there, and Goodsy can go down there as well, and that does help Reid.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's a thing they can add to, another weapon they can add to their bow going into the final series. Certainly the Sydney Swans take some more marks inside 50. Reid hasn't been able to do that quite as yet.
A bit of a untimely lead from Jack Redden. He's conceded the free after the Drummond kick.
I think the style of play you touched on before, Al, too. Rounds 1 to 7, the Lions were averaging 16th most disposals in the league. They've really tidied that up over the last, from round 8 onwards. They're now 7th in disposal. You can see why, because they're just starting to spread. I like it, I really do. They spread the defence around, they chip the ball around, they keep it off the opposition.
So they're on their way out now through Carnesis, Brisbane, and Hanley causing some damage. Crisp decides to go long into the forward line.
Sorry, you've got to give that handball to Rich. Rich is your best player, your best kick in the team.
And
he's running forward. He would have had a shot at goal then, I reckon, if he had given over the top to him.
He maybe not so gently let him know about it too.
Just reinforced the team plan, I would have thought, back Daniel Rich.
Deep in attack. Brown improvising in the ruck. Jack had a moment. Big Pike, Carnesis, already 1 goal to his name. McVeigh Richards. It is a bit greasy out there, and they're finding the going a little tough at the moment. It's out of bounds.
So you're spot on, Rosie. That first 7 weeks, I think Brisbane were still trying to work out what their style of play was. And we saw they went ultra short. We have a look at Daniel Rich to start with. Calling, he was in space, he was going to attack the 50. That was probably going to be a goal, certainly going to be a shot at goal.
Have
so
to
really,
give that ball.
Really disappointing there. But after the horrific game against Fremantle at Patterson Stadium, where they went short all the time, went inside 50 about 23, 25 times, they've really resurrected their style, and actually we can see a pattern of play now.
Yeah, I agree, definitely.
So they lead by 5. We've almost reached the halfway stage of the opening quarter at the SCG. Still under construction, as you can see. There's Kennedy. He's had very little impact on this game so far either. Jack out along the wing, searching, kick. Mumford took a few with him. He doesn't mind that sort of approach. Hudson dished it out. Adcock into the 50, was designed for Crisp. Richards was able to get the spoil affected. Grundy goes once and will have to go a second time, but he's worked off it nicely by Patfull. Good balance. Driving kick to full forward from behind. Zorko, Rains, unlikely goal source in the square, but he's popped it through. And the lines are up and about again.
Yeah, it's really pretty dangerous out going forward, I think. I mean, even though the inside 50s are 5-4, they're obviously pretty even. It's the lines that look more dangerous when they go in. That's really good body work there by Patfull. And then not too much science to it, but a really good contest. Probably chopped the arms, but got the ball to ground, and that's what you need to do as a run-with player. Make Kieran Jack earn it, and he has done that. He kicked a goal on Kieran Jack Rains. Good effort.
Yeah, good goal for the Lions. Very important goal. When you've got a big job like Andrew Rains has today on Kieran Jack, it's good to start by actually putting a bit of pressure on your opposition opponent by getting some decent numbers in your hands, but also on the scoreboard as well.
Yeah, absolutely, no question. That makes Kieran Jack start to think. When you're getting in the back half, often a midfielder will go back half to get away from the tagger, but if the guy's going to kick goals on you, it puts a different thought process in your mind.
Well, there's improvisation for you from Green, and it worked effectively. Hanley just dabs the kick for Rich. Bolton maybe gave him a shove in the back. Oh, you can hear the sound crunch that reverberated around Australia, that one. Here's Nick Smith under some pressure.
Well, Brucey, you mentioned about Daniel Merritt being about 110 kilos, 6'5", 6'6". Have a look at this crash.
Oh, that's a big hit. That is a big hit. And Jude Bolton is as tough a footballer as I've seen. That is a big hit.
There's only one bloke that felt that. It's all Jude, I think.
Zorko popping up and well-placed ball, top of the square.
That's an outstanding kick for a young player. Absolutely outstanding.
He's had a very big impact, hasn't he, Zorko, since he's come into the team?
Yeah, he was slow after the pre-season to get into the team, but once he's got in, he's added some real life through the half-forward midfield positions.
So Buick, rather simple shot for goal. And so it proves. Brisbane with 3 goals on the board, Sydney none.
We'll see that kick again from Zorko. This is outstanding. Most players here will just completely blaze away, but his ability to actually look is a little bit of a floating mongrel, but there's no doubt that's where he wanted to go. He actually had a chance here. Watch it here. Great crumb and shark, but then he sums up the situation beautifully, and that's a fantastic kick and execution. Well done from the young fella. That's really good. Turning a really tough shot at goal from the boundary into an easy goal from Buick 10 metres out directly in front.
Well, Brisbane continuing their recent stunning form. 3 goals on the board already. We know that finals aren't out of the equation. Not many would have marked this game down as one they could win. Of course, it's at very early stages, but what a wonderful start. I wonder if it'll jolt the Swans into action. Melcheski and Kennedy trying to get it into Jack's hands, but not so. Redden, Rains, all hands on deck at the moment for the Brisbane Lions. Kick goes quickly to half forward from Stiller, and that's where it ends. Nick Smith brings McVeigh into action, and then Mumford, who wasn't necessarily ready for it, changed the angle of approach. Nice kick from Jetta from the standing start, all the way through to Melcheski. Hard lead from Goods, and it was a good, strong lead. Good positive start, and it left his opponent Patfull in his wake.
Yeah, beautiful pass set up Adam Goods, and that was Jetta's first kick for the day, so important they need to get the ball into his hands. He's been such a real weapon for the Swans so far this season. He's run off half back to set up these inside 50 entries, been important.
So Adam Goods, just his second kick of the afternoon. There's not a lot of animation from behind the goals, but there might be now because it's worked its way home.
The guy that's having the most impact for the Swans is the fellow that came in from Marty Mattner, Nick Malcheski. Here it is, Jetta, you mentioned here, sets this up to Malcheski. But Malcheski's been the one that's really used the ball well for the Swans. Probably one of the few that's lowered his eyes and hit a target. Beautiful. So that's been, whilst they'll really miss Marty Mattner because he's a terrific player, certainly Malcheski started the game really well. He's had 5 disposals, you know, 1 inside 50 we see there, and that's a real confidence booster for Adam Goods.
Picked a couple last week. Adam Goods has his first this afternoon. Be a good struggle with Joel Patfull. Down to you, Lee Colbert.
The standout down here, boys, 86%. They're going effective disposal, the Brisbane Lions. Patient and poise has been one thing that's standing out.
There's Rich, the inverted kick out of the middle. And bangs to about 40. Oh, there you go. There's the call.
Again, just the pressure that's applied with a quick ball into the forward 50, and especially with a player like Brown, you're really concerned as a defender he's going to take the mark, so you can get sucked into giving these free kicks away.
Well, he's such a big guy, Al, isn't he? I mean, sometimes you do get sucked into grabbing an arm or a jumper, even though you saw in that case there was no way knowing he's going to mark the ball because I think it was Teddy Richards once again flying over. But Grundy doesn't really know that. It's just an uncomfortable position to be in a one-on-one with Brown.
Fresh from 4 goals, 3 last week. Started the run up in the circle, so he should have plenty of momentum behind him, but he's tugged it left.
That was the biggest run up since Michael Holding bowled here many years ago, and he's a free kick again, and was never going to mark that one, as you said, Bruzy. So just the pressure applied with quick ball.
I wonder how much Michael Holding knows how often he gets quoted in AFL football.
That's right.
Wonder if you've ever seen an AFL game, Michael Holding.
Probably not. It's pretty big in Jamaica, isn't it?
Yeah, man. Here's McGlynn. Gets it working nicely. Bit of system for O'Keefe, but green anticipation was excellent. Harwood got his hand in there as well. And this is a good man because Drummond can bang it from there. But he's straight with the kick. He'll be disappointed with the result. He's pretty good, not just kicking him out from defence, but he can kick a goal or 2 on the run.
When he gets those opportunities, you don't see him miss too often. Especially didn't seem to hit it that well. It was only from 50.
Richard scoots away. Pike had to be really diligent about his work there. Took on 2 or 3. Hudson, interesting handball. Umpire gives it the all clear. Rains with the inside-out torpedo. Plenty of numbers there for the Swans, and they're going to use those surplus. Here's Malcheski. He's been bowled so far. Hunted down, though, and that's the way that they've gone about it, Brisbane. Crisp gets it in quickly, just tugs it again, and it's another behind.
Had a couple of free players there, Crisp. That was a tough one. We saw here was a handball here from Hudson. Interesting.
Inconclusive.
Yeah.
He seemed to hit it with the hand.
Short to Roberts-Thompson, and Mumford's got himself in the clear. At half forward he'll turn. You'll see Pike and Reid deep. They're probably just beyond his focus. About 70 metres around from goal. The kick was half shut down. It wanders in the McVeigh direction. It tries to find Everett, successful in that. Roberts-Thompson was allowed time to wind up. Big Pike, he's cleaned a couple up in the path to the ball. Doesn't stop Rich, though, getting there, and out of the corner of the eye he saw the magician Zorko, and now they can stream and they can run out of defence. Angled kick from Crisp, taking it wide for Polkinghorne. Wasn't a good time to lose traction. Buick.
Well done, Malcheski.
It was. And now Jetta. Crowd disappointed because he got rid of it straight away rather than going for a run. Here's Bird. Pike pushing back to the square. The kick goes in over his head. Reed's come at it hard and he marked it.
Really good jump, good build-up, bad turnover from Brisbane at the end of the ground, but Reid got rid of his opponent. I think it might have been McKeever went to ground. He slipped in the goal square. But this is the big contest from Malcheski that turned the ball around from an inside 50 entry for the Brisbane Lions to a shot at goal from young Sam Reid.
And he is plumb in front. And that'll do, it's through. So we've got a couple back, the Swans.
I'm tipping with the confidence levels of Reid, that's going to be really good for him. The fact that he took a strong contested mark, but also finished off with a kick at goal.
Yeah, big contest, you mentioned Malcheski, but technically, Al, he's not a bad kick, Reid. He's actually, when he flushes them, he's got a really nice technique. his is definitely a mental thing. If he hits his first one, but there's no better side. I tell you what, he's just a great jumper. And the thing that he does better than most centre forwards, keeps his eyes on the ball, which is a simple thing, but he does that really well.
So Sam Reid, that will gladden the hearts of the Swans fans. His 16th goal of the season.
And I'd suggest it's the first contested mark he's taken inside 50 for a number of weeks.
So I don't think he even took a mark last week. Maybe one, but they try and scratch their way out this time.
Bossy will be a little bit disappointed the last couple of minutes. They've had a couple of real chances to go forward, but they've butchered a few of their entries. And even that last one, I can't remember who it was, Hardo, that slipped over here on. You called it.
Yep.
But Jonathan Brown was one-on-one going back into the goal square, and all it needed to be was a nice kick to advantage over the top. Instead, it was Malcheski, good contest, and went down for a goal. So they've had a couple of chances let slip the lines.
I think it was Buick.
Yeah, I think you're right. You're right. It's that reward for effort. The effort's been right up there. They're using the ball really well by foot, but just a couple of critical errors have caused turnovers and goals.
Rains continues to hold Jack at bay. Kieran Jack just the 2 disposals so far. Bobbles around for a while. Goods gets out, and so does McVeigh. Swans starting to get rolling now. Reid up to meet it, looking for a mate to dump it with, and couldn't handle it cleanly. Green proves nuisance value. High ball, Smith. He got in the back. Just a little over eager with his body work on Buick now. He's gone off the line and he's kicked it out on the foot.
Is that a 50-metre penalty? It used to be.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
A good call.
Now, what's happened there? There's big Mike Pike has been crunched by Daniel Rich. But what happened here? The ball's been kicked out in the full, but the Sydney Swans player then just knocked it over the fence, and so that's
The Brisbane player.
Sorry, the Brisbane player. That's a time wasting. It used to be actually reportable back when you were playing, Ruzi, many years ago.
We didn't have blokes to kick it over the fence, so did we?
Oh.
So Jetta, who's been such a great avenue of attack for them this year, 31 goals to his name. Things are levelling up here at the SCG. Gee, how costly does that prove now? I think it was Zorko, wasn't it? We'll have another look at it.
There it is here.
There it is. Buick's pulled the left foot kick over the line. Now, this is just a lack of experience from Dane Zorko, because you can't touch the ball. If he marked the ball, that's fine, but he has to give the ball straight back. But to knock it over the fence and waste time, that was going to be 50 metres every day of the week.
The old coach killer.
Oh, absolutely.
That's right up in the finals, isn't it, that one?
Yeah. But again, it's another critical error for a goal.
Yeah, I think Michael Voss would be really disappointed with the last 5 minutes. They were well on top, and not taking any credit away from the Swans, but it's really been more about Brisbane Lions' lack of ball use and that undisciplined play over there that's allowed the Swans to kick sort of 3 goals in a row now.
Absolutely. Brisbane mistakes have been the key to the last 5 minutes.
Goods forced to go back, but not a real problem. Johnson, here is Kieran Jack. Again, not a good time to lose your footing, particularly half back. Bolton was able to fight the fight. Throw Keefe's hands back to Johnson again. Wide kick, good kick for Everett. Know how to use the width of this ground. Kieran Jack charging out, getting away from Rains. Gee, that was nearly 50 as well. Adcock really stretching it. Fine line, and a nice ball's going to drop short, and this man has a habit of getting forward into the 50. Kennedy can kick a goal, maybe not from here. He doesn't think he can anyway. Centering ball, you can see why he centered it too. Richards has drifted into the 50. Doesn't quite hit the target, but it was mighty close. Drummond trying to orchestrate something, which he does, for Zorko, and they split.
Well, it was a good kick, but the vision actually to see Zorko was exceptional.
Harwood slipped it back again to him. Zorko. Oh, he's got through the zone all the way through to Green, but it doesn't quite reach him. And Grundy's able to get things organised. Johnson, a little bit sloppy. Roberts-Thompson, and it's over and out.
Now, it seems see here, this is a big barrel from Dane Zorko to get it over the back of all the Sydney defenders, as it did, but unfortunately just wasn't accurate enough to get to Josh Green.
I think Green had come off the interchange too. That's why he was running inside forward 50 by himself. So goes for the old-fashioned barrel. When it comes off, it looks good, Al.
When it doesn't?
Did you ever hit one flush?
Never.
I
actually won at the Wacker in about 89.
Well, Jetta's got off the chain here. Polkinghorn is his direct opponent. Brings it to the middle to Malcheski, and then to Bolton, the build-up. Looks damaging like it could be. O'Keefe to Goods. No one in the goal square, so could go short, had a couple of targets. Now Reid breaks back to the square. Clever play, holds him at bay and marks it. McKeever getting a bit of a lesson there.
Yeah, that was great forward play. Absolutely great. He just took a stutter step to the left. And was it McKeever?
Yep.
So the old dummy to him. He said, "No, I'll take that," and then he ran back to goals and took a mark. So that's just a learning curve for the young fella, the young defender.
He wastes no time. And wouldn't you know it, Sydney are in front.
Yeah, as you called it, fantastic play by not only Sam Reid, but the build-up from Adam Goods not to blaze away. That was really important as well. He didn't just bang it on the boot. He looked, saw that he couldn't go long, then when Reid doubled back, he kicked it as hard as he could into that space, top of the goal square, and McKeever was just slightly out of position. A nice mark and another goal, which just puts the Swans in front by 5 points.
Whereas we were discussing off air before the game whether this team, coached by John Longmire, could really actually threaten for the premiership. I think we were talking maybe they might need 1 or 2 extra players, but gee, one thing that could change that if Reid can be a real 3 to 4 goal kicker, and obviously they've got Goods down there and a strong midfield and a solid defence, then they could be there in the reckoning.
Well, I think if Reid really gets going, it does allow Adam Goods to get back in the midfield, and he's really the game changer in the midfield. Look, they're certainly thereabouts, there's no question. Whether their best is as good as sort of Collingwood's, Hawthorn's, well, maybe West Coast, but certainly their evenness is going to be a real concern for the opposition, because even if you shut down one player, maybe a Kieran Jack has been a little bit quiet, it seems that their midfield is really deep at the moment, which is really important if you want to go deep into September.
And they team so well. Hanbury's kick was not good at all. Gave too much of it for Rich. Down to 20 seconds. So they can pluck one here, Brisbane. It might just change the complexion. Good tackle on the line from Green. Grundy seems to have things under his control. Malcheski, just a bit of a hacking kick. And they're going to be able to have a shot for goal here. Nice play, Hanley, to get it into Zorko's chest. That will annoy John.
I was going to say, if we could have a shot of the coach's box, John Longmire would be filthy with that one. 5 seconds remaining when the kick was executed to a free player inside 50 for the Brisbane Lions. Dane Zorko hasn't been around for long, and he's not a big man, but surely you've got to pick him up in those positions.
Well, he may not be a big man, but he can pack a punch. He's kicked 7-4 going into the season. And unfortunately for Brisbane, he misses that one to the left. And Zorko, his first behind. He had 5 touches in the first quarter. So Sydney lead by 4, despite the fact that Brisbane kicked the first 3 goals of the quarter. Very enjoyable opening quarter here at the SCG. The first part all belonged to Brisbane. They kicked the first 3, but the Swans hitting back hard with 4 consecutive goals to take a slight 4-point advantage. At quarter time, Reid, the only multiple goal kicker so far. Malcheski, one of the late inclusions with 9 disposals. And speaking of late inclusions, we had Simon Black pull out very late. Colby with Beams coming in. What was the story?
Yes, he injured himself in the warm-up, actually, Anthony. He came out on the ground 30 minutes before the start of play, hurt his knee in the warm-up. They decided to take no risks, wind him out of the game, and now Clay Beams, who played in the earlier match, gets a run for the Brisbane Lions.
All right, well, we're seeing a bit of push and shove there with Reid and McKeever, and that could be a pretty crucial contest as this game continues.
Yeah, it could be a critical matchup. Certainly Reid's got off to a flying start, but I think the story of the first quarter was the Lions got out of the blocks extremely well. Then through their own errors, the Swans hit the front with some nice play.
Yeah, absolutely. Brown's only the 2 possessions, so they've pretty much got him under control at the moment. Interesting when you talk about Reid matchup, the merit forward, just a brave move from Michael Voss, because it's hard to find really good key defenders.
Well, they've hung in there for all season, actually, with the merit forward. But they're going to hang in there still, I think.
Yep, Mumford with the free, drives it in there quickly, and bursting through McVeigh, fresh from a huge game last week, runs in and rolls it through. 37 disposals and 7 tackles last week, Jared McVeigh. Yeah, hitting a rich vein of form. He puts that through, and that's 10 points the difference all of a sudden.
And that's one of the things we spoke about, clearances. If you can get the ball quickly out of the middle of the ground, see the Hudson arm to the Mumford neck, but if you can get the clearance quickly out of the centre before the defence has time to set, and obviously we see there, a lot of the defence for the Brisbane Lions was still in transition to get back, just allows you to have a really good chance to generate a shot.
Yeah, but if I was Michael Voss, and you touched on before, Al, a number of goals the Swans got in the first quarter as a result of Lions. Once again, Hudson free kick. It'd be driving me crazy if I was in the coach's box at the moment, because there's a centre clearance that goes deep in the forward 50, results in a goal. It should never have been there.
Redden couldn't get a handle on it. McGlynn got rid of it in haste. Hanley forced to reverse back. He had plenty of voices there and teammates. Now Rains stretching out, didn't do any favours for Brown. Taken away out of it by Richards and Goods. And now McVeigh, and they're getting deep again. Roberts-Thompson constrained. Here's Reid trying to work his way through McKeever. Did that quite nicely. Jetta just sweating, waiting. He's still on it, McKeever. He's hatched it a little. And I reckon he's in some sort of trouble here, the big Irish. No, he's okay.
Well, I'll tell you, what he's done is gone over the top as far as hitting the ball in that congestion, because the umpires want to hang their hat on something. Show me you're trying to get the ball out.
Yeah, that seems to be the case. If you're whacking fresh air, you're fine.
He's hitting the ball.
Hudson down to Hanley, who just adapted and adopted the kick and got it nicely into Zorko's hands.
It's a really nice control kick, that, because a lot of times you'll find a guy coming out of a stoppage like that in defence, he just blazes away and it goes straight to the opposition, because generally they've got numbers getting back. So now you're allowed to control the play, and I suspect we'll see the Lions try and move it up. It's just these short passes, which they've been doing pretty well over the last month.
Howard to Stiller, and then safely just getting through to the free kick paid against Shaw in the end, and Leicester to take it.
And with the congestion, if you can get that 40-metre kick to hit a target, then go quickly, you can get over the back of the press from the Sydney Swans.
Important spoil that by Grundy on Brown, not just for that piece of play, but just to continue to build his confidence in such an important role. There's Malcheski, who's had 9 disposals so far. Mumford guiding Bolton.
It's been a terrific start from the game by Malcheski, Hutto, you mentioned. And look, full credit to him, because coming in late, I'm not sure when he would have known he was playing. Obviously, Marty Mattner pulling out. But 9 disposals. He's been the standout player on the ground for mine at this stage.
Now O'Keefe through the hands of Bolton, but no damage done. Shaw angled the kick, and that was solid stuff from Hanley. He's become an outstanding player for Brisbane.
He's just approaching his 50th game 48.
Adcock
today
sees a path through the middle, and Harwood, and it's back to Adcock, and now Rich, who can do some damage from there, and he knows it, and now we all know it. What a lovely goal from Daniel Rich.
He's penetrating kick.
I was just going to say, Al, he's got such an efficient kicking style. If you looked at his ball drop there, and you watch him here, it's really good ball movement here, getting it back in the corridor. I'm not sure if it was Craig Bird. You look at Craig Bird, he's on Rich there, and I'm not sure I'd be doing that and leaving him. How efficient is this kicking style? He's got a really, not a quick leg swing through the ball. It's just really good timing. You can see it here.
It's a punch.
Never been entirely sure how long the 50-metre mark is here, Brizzy, but if it's accurate, he's kicked it at 60,
they tell me it's 50. I used to drill them from about 60, so it must have been. But I tell you, just for the young guys going on that kicking style, you can see when young guys kick from outside 50, they tend to just try and over-kick it. Like, it is all about just the timing of the ball.
Kennedy powers that one forward over Pike's head, and Drummond had him at the drop that time.
Yeah, it was a good mark from Drummond, but again, the kick was to the advantage of the defender rather than the forward by being over the back.
Show a lot of respect to big Mike Pike there as he comes out of defence. Drummond and Merritt and Richard share the honours. It's out of bounds.
Again with the Rich kick, he was on his right foot, so in a very short amount of time, he had to swing back onto the left foot.
But he just hasn't over-kicked it. You're right. It's just a really efficient kicking style. And as I said, some young kids that try and kick it from outside 50, they really overstride and over-kick.
Well, Jack was a little fortunate to go on high because he was Gonski's otherwise.
Very lucky.
So Kieran Jack, as we've touched on, has been restricted. This is just his 4th disposal thus far.
Oh, he just missed the opportunity to get to Mumford, who was in the 50 by himself. Hudson was a bit slow to pick him up.
He angles into the pocket for Adam Goods. Lots of appeals going on there. Piers Hanley looking for a hold or a push, hands in the back.
Yeah, he's claiming the hands in the back free kick, but heard the reply from the umpire saying it was the forearm.
You mentioned Kieran Jack. Rains has had the 8 disposal, his direct opponent, Hutto, so it's been a really good job. 8 disposals and a goal from Rains.
Deemed a throw. Hanbury found his target. But,
well, it seemed like a really efficient handball.
Yeah, he's not happy about it, is it, Dan Hanbury? Adcock, that is not a great-looking kick, but Zorko, he can take a mark from anywhere.
Zorko, isn't he? Good player.
And he whips the handball and gets them into motion quickly. So Brisbane going again.
Oh, that's a free kick blocking against Merritt. So we go to Richards.
And Rockcliffe drove it down. He's just had 3 disposals, Tom Rockcliffe, so he's not getting much of the footy either. This has slipped into the 50. Goods. Rains impactful. Kennedy gathered it, waited for the run from behind from Jack. And his kick, it's not as good as you'd normally expect. Drummond taking no chances.
He's probably rushed there because of the pressure that he's been getting for the day from Rains. He just feels every time he goes near the ball, Rains is not far away, so didn't take the extra few steps.
Opportunity quickly runs out for Crisp.
Yeah, the thing about Kieran Jack, though, he'll keep working. He's a really fit player, good aerobic ability, and he's got a burst of speed. So Rains is going to have to continue to put pressure on him all day.
Kennedy has it worked away by Redden. Some good tight matchups in there, isn't there, at the moment? We saw Hanbury watching Rockcliffe closely, and Kennedy with Redden. And of course, we talked about Rains on Jack much of the night. At the moment, Rains watching O'Keefe from this throw-in.
Yeah, Kieran Jack's come off the ground, and I suspect Rains would want to as well, because when you're tagging someone, there's Rains there. He's calling the interchange himself, because now he's actually gone on to O'Keefe. Really good.
That's
you
good
see
point.
that?
Yep.
He really wants to get off the ground and get a breather, because all of a sudden, Kieran Jack's been off for a couple of minutes, and now it looks like Kieran Jack might be coming back on. So that's when it becomes really tough for that run with player, when he doesn't get the breather at the same time as the guy he's running with.
Well, they had the numerical advantage there, Brisbane, but weren't able to make the most of it, and we'll see a throw-in.
A really interesting contest down on the boundary line, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just intriguing how Jack wants to get back on, because he knows Rains has not had the few minutes. He's not refreshed, so he wants to really stretch him now.
Yeah, no doubt. He'd be desperate to get back on the ground, Kieran, now.
Merritt got the tap, but the ball's in Sydney's hands. Jetta takes the conservative route, top of the square. Reid again, got himself clear. There's a bit going on before the ball arrived, but Reid was able to be clear enough to go and take the mark.
Again, that was a really good mark. He did all his preparation earlier and got rid of his opponent, so he's jumped free. It was almost an uncontested mark in the end, but really good preparation work.
So Reid already with a couple of goals to his name, and that'll do. That's his third. They lead by 11.
At what point, Al, do you have to put Merritt back? That's 3 goals now. McKee was just a young player, up-and-coming player. So there's always a fine line. It's a great kick here from Jetta, mind you. Really nice kick out the front. Not too high, but out into space, and he's a really good jumper and leap we talked about. You just don't want to crucify a young kid. So there's development as opposed to making sure you don't overcook them. So it'll be interesting to see whether he does put Merritt back at any stage.
Sydney led by 11, Lee Colbert.
Gents, just watching, and I know Ruzi's already mentioned it about Sam Reid and Merritt going back. Is there any reason why Merritt doesn't play in that key post anymore?
Oh, I think they're trying to use Daniel Merritt as the second ruckman, so he can have more of a spell forward and take the focus away from Jonathan Brown. So that's the reason, but certainly I'd have Daniel Merritt back. I mean, he's one of the premier spoiling defenders in the league.
Brown was trying to sneak it through, but to Leicester, but the Swans intervening and their defence starts to swing into action now. Malcheski hitting Pike, who delayed things just a fraction longer than he probably would have liked, but McVeigh's able to keep things moving now. Back to Malcheski. They got safely to half-back. Bolton, I think he's come off the bench and he's there for the switch, and you can see these teammates are ready to run. Reece Shaw doing just that, accepting it and driving it. And McLean worked so well from one side of the ground to the other.
Yeah, Bolton was doing star jumps over here, wasn't he?
Driving kick for Hanbury. and he hangs on just long enough.
Well, Hanbury dropped into the forward 50 without his opponent. So just on that transition, the Swans were able to lose their direct opponent. And that's why Hanbury ended up with the ball in the end. Really good work rate. And then equally as good was the fact that the Swans players with men on them got away from him.
So Daniel Hanbury kicked 3-6 for the season. Going into tonight. On his way now. Stabs at it pretty well. It's through. Sydney are in command now.
Whereas you want to revisit that discussion about whether McKeever stays back. How long do you stick with your structure? Obviously, in the past month, Daniel Merritt's been a key up forward and the second ruckman. How long do you actually stay with what you believe in or make the move? Do we change things up or do we stick to what's been working over the last month?
Look, you can't argue with Bossy. I'm probably a little bit like you, and we've discussed it, that I see Merritt as a really good key defender, and it is hard, but you can't argue with Bossy because they've been getting results over the last month. And then it does come down to, I guess, there's two things, as I said. It's the confidence of the player that's getting belted. If it's a young player, I just don't like to leave them there too long. Now, it mightn't be Merritt that you push back there. It might be someone else. But, yeah, it is very difficult when you're starting to get, belting if you're a young player, particularly at fullback, because it's such a tough position to play.
Rockcliffe went off the turf.
I'll tell you, Pike's in a bit of trouble in the middle of the ground.
There he is.
From that ruck contest.
Here's Polkinghorne. Sets it up for Brown. Grundy came up and over the top. Melcheski came scooting through, and the ball is over and out.
What Vossi can be confident in is that McKeever's got a really good aerobic capacity as well, so he could go as that pinch hitter in the ruck and sort of rest forward and on the interchange bench if he likes. But looks like he's going to stick with it at the moment.
Likes to recover enough to go for that ball up.
Might have been just a poke in the eye or something from the centre clearance.
That's what it was. Maybe we can have a look if we get a chance.
Here it is, and
just the side of the head, just to the eye.
Clip across the eye.
So the margin stands at 17. Polkinghorne took his turn in the ruck. Rains feeding it back to Polkinghorne. Bit of a standoff. He's on the line. It's over and out. They've been hurt by the loss of the big boy Maguire too, haven't they, Brisbane?
Yeah, well, Matty Maguire was a real cloud over whether he'd be able to hold his position in the side, but I think he's had a really good year at fullback. His experience, he hasn't got great leg speed, but his experience at fullback and his guidance to the younger players has been very good.
Kennedy to McVeigh to Grundy to Goods, and they'll be away if he hasn't been able to mark it cleanly. But Patfield doing a diligent job on Goods, as he's done plenty of times in the past.
I just think fullback is such a specialised position, though, Al, isn't it? I mean, you can be in 20 contests and win 15 and get 5 goals kicked against you. So it is hard for a young player to learn his craft in that position.
Well, Hanley summed that up pretty well. I know the kick was nothing special, but all the bases deep were covered, and he continues to impress. There's Rockcliffe, as we mentioned, really quiet for him so far. Just the 5 disposals.
Yeah.
And that's for someone, I think he's averaging 27 disposals.
He's had another really good season.
Now Goods. Everett Bolt all involved. Well, he's had 6 score involvements so far, Jetta, and they've only scored 10 times. This could be a 7th. He waited, gave it to Johnson, the defender, advancing, looked uncertain, decided to pass it. Reed's follow-up work was excellent. Just couldn't quite bend down when it mattered. Bird found a way through. The kick goes right across and out on the full.
That pass inside 50 to Reed, I think the confidence builder for McKeever, that good closing speed, managed to get a fist on against Sam Reed. But as you said, I mean, if the next one comes in and he gets blocked and gets another goal on him, that's not good for the confidence. But certainly on that occasion, he reinforced to Michael Voss why he's down there.
So Drummond hemmed in the back pocket. Finds Buick.
They're just right on top now, the Swans, aren't they? The Lions just look... They're struggling. Every kick going inside 50 is a poor kick now. It's a poor entry. And that probably started with about 6 or 7 minutes to go in the first quarter.
Daniel Richford, their only goal of the quarter. Sydney have managed 3 thus far. Only halfway there. McVeigh. A little bit of a duck, but
He just slipped the tackle up over the top from Karnesis. Now they've got this good spread on again.
The advantage paid Shaw to Malchesi. Could deal it back to him, and now he does. Shaw just got that bit closer to goal. Got plenty goods. Mismatch down there is still up. Nothing Shane Stiller could do about that. Adam Goods marks in the square and can ram another one through for the Swans. He's kicked one, and that man, Rhys Shaw, hasn't created some havoc since about the first month of the season. Goods pops it through. They're beyond 50 points now in terms of their total.
Yeah, look, Rhys Shaw's been a fantastic player for the Sydney Swans since coming across from Collingwood. You see here, he's finished, I think, each year he's finished top 3 or 4 in their best and fairest. So you cannot complain about his output. It's been exceptional. But just so still, he's got no idea. And I'm not laughing because it's unexpected. I mean, he's just not used to playing on a player of the size. I mean, he's a midfielder, Stiller, and a run-with player that type. So a one-on-one contest, Adam Goods versus Stiller, Goods is going to win that every time.
13 disposals tonight from Rhys Shaw. Played a big hand in that goal kicked by Adam Goods.
As you said, Shaw's been a really good player since he's been here. You introduced him to the leadership group in his second year, I think it was.
Yeah, look, he made immediate impact. He's a very good trainer, very professional, and very vocal. So he worked his way into the leadership group really quickly, and he's been exceptional, which has given them. If you look at the Swans half back over the last 3 or 4 years, you've got Matner, who's out today, you've got Malchesky, you had Kennelly, Armstrong's come into the side as well now. So they've always had really good attacking half backs, and Shaw has been, as I said, absolutely outstanding.
Well, even within this year, they've had great stability. The Swans, 12 players who've played every game, and Richards, Grundy and Matner until today were amongst that, and Shaw had only missed one. So, and young Johnson's also played every game. So it's been very familiar faces around, hasn't it, in defence. Wobbly one, and anyone could have marked that, and that anyone was Karnesis in the end.
Yeah, the ball just floated over the back of Jonathan Brown, and as once again tends to happen from defenders, you get sucked towards the key forward, and they were more conscious of not allowing Jonathan Brown to mark the ball rather than actually focusing on where the ball was going.
So Karnesis kicked one goal, and now he's got a double. In Brisbane, a desperately needed 6-pointer.
Yeah, they desperately needed that, Al, but even then it wasn't a great entry, was it? And they're just not looking super dangerous. If you look at the kick here, it's just a sort of floating bomb, and you mentioned it, that they all, Teddy Richards went to watch Brown, Johnson went to Brown, and then all of a sudden over the back of the pack. So it wasn't a great entry. They've just got to find a better way to bring the ball inside the forward 50, but it's a really important goal for them to get back to 17 points.
Made such an impact last season, did Patrick Karnesis. Found it going a bit tougher to find places in the team. Michael Voss unapologetic for that.
Well, it's only his 5th game for the season. As I said, I just thought his development was, skyrocketing last year, but he must have struggled in at the club this year.
Good work from Roberts Thompson to Goods. The call was out to Jack. That's on target for a while.
Yeah, you're a bit unlucky there, Hutto. It did fade very late to the left. But he's just working his way back into the game again after having all that attention from Rains early.
Just on Karnesis, Fossey was saying, well, it was a good thing that they've actually had some pressure on their players to earn their spots this year, something they haven't really had in previous seasons.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right. And that's the worry for Gold Coast and GWS, Al, because a lot of players are just given games, and that's not a criticism. They have to give them games because they're the only players that they can sort of play, and they're all young players. I think Vossie's absolutely right. There's nothing wrong with fighting for your spot in the team, and there's nothing wrong with playing seconds to also help your development.
The switch was on there, and Brisbane have done pretty well to just stem the flow a little bit in terms of the way Sydney were moving the ball.
Yeah.
Up until a few minutes ago, McVeigh, Kieran Jack.
Still another player just slipping there, just from that light rain we had around lunchtime here in Sydney.
Adam Goods. There's a nice little slide. Holds it up just to make sure everyone knows. McGlynn's got loose if he wanted to pass to him. He missed that opportunity. Now he bounds away. Goods Drives to half forward. Mumford sets himself, just slightly, ever so slightly misjudged it. Adcock, bold enough to see off Mumford, gave it to Hanley. They're sharing it well, but that was a misfire. O'Keefe, one more from McLean into the hands of Everett. He was looking around for a teammate. He saw one, but he just couldn't hit him. Zorko, his handball also ineffective. They're running around the footy a bit, both sides. Patfull takes his chance. Crisp, handballs to the voice out wide, but Shaw's able to sneak in and paddle it for Roberts-Thompson. Another topo. Crisp, they gang up in numbers. McLean with desperation. He went to grounds either. He's either going to be too high or holding the ball.
No, he's got the too high, so he's got the free kick, but his attack on the ball was fantastic. Went in very low and hard.
Off to Shaw once more. His 14th disposal. Deep for Reid. Not the second. Put the head down there, Big McKeever. Goods looking for the bounce handball out, but Redden was onto it. Hanley. They closed them out under pressure. Drummond. Given a fair bit of leeway by the umpire.
Gee, it is, yeah, wouldn't he? Was.
Down to Lee Colbert.
Just watching Nick Malcheski here. He's on the boundary line. He's had a great first turn, but his right quadricep, he had a cork thigh, trying to keep warm. Been a super player, as I said, but trying to get himself back into the game.
Pike swipes it down. Goods again. They're sweating on him. Just knowing how dangerous he is. Another ball up required. So this second quarter has produced 4 goals, 2 for Sydney and 2 straight for Brisbane.
Inside 50s, 12-6, Hutto. So yeah, certainly dominated in that facet of the game.
Mike Pike coming off under the blood rule. Caught one in the snoz. We would have had a few of them playing rugby union.
Yeah,
and full credit to Pike. He doesn't get a lot of credit for the way he's improved as a footballer. Lots talked about Carmichael Hunt and Israel Folau and developing guys from other codes. But look, he's been fantastic in his development and now become a really important part of their team.
Well, as I said, that's where I think the void was, the marks inside 50. He's actually one that's had a contested mark inside 50 over the last few weeks. He can take an overhead grab, which is really important for his development.
Oh, sneaky kick from Adam Goods. He had it on remote control. Now, was it touched?
Leave it to goal. Okay, I'm happy to check. I mean, do you know if that was touched?
I didn't see it touched.
You didn't see it touched? Do you know if that was touched?
I didn't see it touched.
Okay. We need a score review. We want to check if the ball is touched, but we think it's a goal.
Well, I don't mind that. I mean, after what we saw this afternoon, there's a couple might have got overlooked. It's worth, if any doubt, let's have a quick look. It shouldn't take too long. And have a look at this one. Well, it's inconclusive. That's the thing. Noel McKeever was pretty confident that he touched it with the left hand. You couldn't see any space between his hand and the ball.
Well, I tell you what, it's incredible that Goodsy can kick a goal from there. I mean, that's inexcusable for a start for the Brisbane Lions. They can roll just about through the goal square. But what I do like about this one, which I haven't seen a lot, is that the goal umpire's made a definitive decision that was what he thinks is right.
Yeah.
And we saw one this afternoon where the goal umpire thought it was a goal.
And
the boundary umpire overruled him and said, well, no, I think it was touched. Clearly, it looked like it wasn't touched, but because it was inconclusive, it was called a point. I disagree with that one. It should have been left to the goal umpire to determine it.
Well, that is a goal because you just couldn't tell that it was touched. So it's another one for Sydney.
Yeah, just the Sydney Swans really dominating the play now. Just seem in control where they weren't in control in that first term. They were rewarded from some mistakes at the other end of the ground by the Brisbane Lions, but they just seem to have picked up the tempo of the game. They're controlling the tempo by good use by foot, and this is more like the Sydney Swans we've seen over the early parts of this season. Really impressive structures, some quality players running through the midfield, and Adam Goods getting involved.
Yeah, I just can't believe he can kick a goal from there. I mean, that's just bad structure. Great crumb here from Kieran Jabb.
And his kick won't go all the way. He's starting to find the footy, though. Drummond on that last line and taking no chances. Walks through for a behind. They've now kicked 5 goals to 2.
That's an interesting one, Hutto, if we look at that again.
You reckon it was close to deliberate? Was he under pressure?
Thank you.
Well, I don't know. I'll have to look up pressure in the dictionary, Al. But isn't that the reason why the rule was brought in? Because a Hawthorn were walking it through basically in the 2008 grand final.
Time wasting, wasn't it?
It's time wasting. I don't think it should be a free kick. But by the same token, why bring the rule in if you're not going to penalise, was it Patfull or Drummond, for just walking it over the line?
15, fly on.
Wait and see what you find when you look up pressure in the dictionary. Here's McGlynn. He's popped it through for another one. They're swarming them now.
Yeah, look, the lines have just completely fallen apart now.
We're moving around next fire.
They've really fallen apart in this sort of structures. Centre clearance there by Kieran Jack going forward. We saw a goodsy goal from a defensive stoppage of Brisbane Lions. So, yeah, look, they've really fallen apart in the last sort of 10 minutes, which was a bit disappointing. Nice little kick across there to keep the ball alive from Jared McVeigh. Really good crumb there and a nice snap goal. So the Brisbane Lions just a little bit messy in the last 10 to 15 minutes.
Yeah, nice response from the Swans since quarter time. They're just really dominating. They're up on possessions, well and truly inside 50s are way up on, but 6-3 to 2 straight in this quarter. So just smashing the Lions in the second term.
They get some footy out of the middle here with Rich. Now Rockcliffe, as we mentioned, has been clamped down on. Some good charging momentum forward from Hanley, but working the angles. This man Kieran Jack has really started to have a big influence in this second term. Not a great kick through the middle, but everything is turning to gold as far as the Swans are concerned at the moment. Once again, not a terrific handball. Adcock squirts out with a throw. Goes to Everett, who kicks instantly, well, too quickly. Straight into Adcock. Jetta there to put some pressure on. Adcock scrambling around, able to find his man. Buick gives it plenty to the outside.
They got numbers out here. Should be able to move the ball on quickly and hopefully bring Rich into play.
Carnesis the target. Sneaks inside. Now here's Rich. We know he can go the distance. And the accuracy is no sweat either for Daniel Rich. What a goal.
Good build-up because they had the really good spread. John Longmire is not happy to say the least. But what happened is on the transition, the Lions players got out into space, worked really hard, and Rich was one of those players. So good hands from Carnesis to set up Daniel Rich. Didn't exactly flush it off the boot, but it swung back beautifully and still covered the 55 metres. So really nice goal and just keeps them in touch heading towards half-time. 25 points down, but more importantly, a few key players got involved.
Yeah, I suspect that Johnny Longmire might have been having a yell at Craig Bird because it's just a mental job when you're running with a Daniel Rich.
Yep.
You can't let him go because you know he's such a good kick. He's so efficient with his ball use. And another one just from outside 50 from Rich.
Can't believe how much you enjoy, Roosie, watching the coaches get annoyed. You know exactly what they're going
through. The memories come flooding back. But you know exactly what's going through coach's mind there because you put... There is John talking. Look at Vossi. But you know the role that you've set the player and you know that they would have gone through with Bird. Don't let him get the ball forward of centre. Whatever you do, back... I think it was a Kinesis that marked him.
Yeah.
Let him have a shot from outside 50. Now, if he kicks it from outside 50, well, you tip your hat and you go fantastic.
Well, Bird, he might feel he owes the one, drives it in quickly. Gooch was impeded slightly, puts the pressure on McKeever. He knew he had to get it out. Patfull in a similar situation. Oh, Reid. Oh, what a wonderful effort to drag the ball in, hook it in. Fortunately, couldn't kick accurately.
Every time it goes in 50 now, Al, the Swannies look dangerous, don't they? Look, what's Goods had this quarter? He's had 9 and kicked 2 goals, and McVeigh's had 8, Shaw's had 7, Jack 7, Kennedy 5. So all the good players are up and about now, the Swans.
I mean, Reid's only had the 3 disposals and kicked 1 goal, but he looks likely. Every time he goes near the ball, he looks like he's going to mark it now.
Grundy, Roberts-Thompson in the squeeze there. Adcock's at the back. Desperate lunge from McGlynn. Amounts to nothing. Patfull to Rich. Bird was right there with him that time. Jetta ran around it. Still is able to find the footy. Still just under 3 minutes remaining in the quarter. Polkinghorne.
Just went over the boundary line.
Just on that Craig Bird one, gents, you can bet your bottom dollar at half-time. I think John Longmire was asking for the tape to show Craig Bird where was he when Daniel Rich kicked that goal.
Yeah, look, it's tough being a player now because you can get instant feedback. And now with laptops and coaches all getting their laptops out, and not like when you were running around back in the 60s.
But I would suggest that David Parkin gave me pretty instant feedback back in the late 80s.
Yeah, it was a bit more guesswork then, though.
Yeah, that's right. The vision to support the argument is not good. And we know last week's game, certainly the Swans had a really good win against the Giants out at ANZ Stadium, but at half-time, he tore shreds off the team at half-time. Really disappointed the fact that they were only 6 goals up, but a few of their structures weren't working as fluently as he would have liked.
Tackle count in this game is 27 to 22, so it's not that high, is it, in favour of Sydney?
Yeah, no, you're right. It's not necessarily that high a tackle game, but I think the Brisbane, there's no doubt Brisbane are having a crack, but they're just their entries. And you look at Brown, and this is not a criticism of Brown, but I think Brown's had 3 disposals for the game, but it just hasn't had a chance because the forward entries of Sydney are a lot more dangerous than what the forward entries of the Lions are, but everything else is reasonably even.
Here's Rockcliffe darting out of trouble and getting them going. So the margin at the moment as it stands is 26 points. Hanley, here's Rich again.
Yeah, he's working hard now.
Turns
really
instantly
hard.
on the left. Carnesis is the go-to man for the Lions. He's got a pop on his own in the goal square, but he decides to pass it back to Brown. And that's pretty wise conduct. Brown not that happy about the little flea down underneath him.
Well, McGlynn there knocked himself out when he had a charge at Jonathan Brown. But as you said, he hasn't had a big game so far, Brownie, but it is an imposing target. And Carnesis felt obliged to kick the ball to him on that occasion.
Really contested possessions 72-71, even possessions 186, 178. So a lot of things are pretty even. It is just that last kick inside 50. I mean, the inside 50 is a little bit in the Swans' favour, 27-20. But certainly the Lions have had their opportunities going forward, but they've just butchered a lot of their kicks.
Well, this to trim the margin back to 20 and give them some hope. And that's exactly what it does. Jonathan Brown, look at the arm in the air.
How many times have you done that?
I'm not sure I've done it too often, but
about 522, I reckon.
I reckon he has too. He's
Brownie loves the one-arm salute.
Oh, he does.
Loves it.
Yeah, Brownie loves it. He certainly does, and he just really wants to impose himself on this game. But Daniel Rich, the work rate to get away from Bird on that occasion was really good. It's happened on a few occasions in this quarter, and just saw Reshaw, one of the few times he's lost his feet, and then Carnesis just set up Jonathan Brown. And not overly happy with the attention.
Been a few theatrics in this game, isn't there?
Yeah,
That's a little bit of a mismatch, that one.
Yeah,
McGlynn versus Brown.
But I reckon McGlynn's got a fair handle on the rules. He knows he's not going to get whacked.
Yeah.
So margin trimmed back to 20 now. Hudson, Rucking and the Roving. Late burst here from the Lions with a couple of goals. Polkinghorn maybe got off more than he could chew. Holding the ball. A couple of good tackles in there from McVeigh and also Kennedy. This is Roberts-Thompson working it through Bolton's hands. Mumford just had to turn around at the right moment. He did it.
Yeah, he worked really well from that stoppage. He just wasn't spectating. He pushed hard into some space without crowding the forward line, but just found some space and just made Ben Hudson work very hard to try to cover, but couldn't get there in that sort of short space of time. Great kick from Jetta off half-back as well to hit LRT.
So Mumford, 4 goals, 1 for the season. Generally a pretty accurate kick at goal. Right on the buzzer at half-time. Starts at the right-hand goal post. It's going to go close to the left in the end. Very close. So that'll just give Brisbane a little bit of hope as they head into the break. They trail by 21 points. It's Sydney 10-7-67. It was a big second quarter as far as Sydney were concerned. They kicked 6 goals, 5 to 4 straight. The Lions 7-4-46. The margin is 21 points.